What's up everybody, it's Robin Gaming here. So, Damian Thong is a technology analyst at a massive financial advising company called Macquarie Capital Securities. Quite a long name, but he was recently interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about his predictions and when he expects the PlayStation 5 to eventually release. Now, what's very interesting about the guy is, once again, he is a technology analyst and he also correctly predicted the existence of both the PS4 Pro and PS4 Slim in 2016, which turned out to be true, of course. So, yeah, what he said is that he personally thinks the PlayStation 5 will be releasing already in the second half of 2018, which I think if you and I kind of look at that, we're immediately going, well, that seems a little early, and especially with how well the PlayStation 4 is doing right now. Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about that. When is the PlayStation 5 actually releasing? So I wanted to talk about if I think that what he is saying can somewhat be right, what I personally think will happen, and what I think is best for Sony to happen at the same time as well, I guess. So let's immediately simply, get into it by talking about what I personally think. When is the PlayStation 5 releasing? Now, I've already said this for quite a while, I think, but I think the most valid way to kind of look at things, or at least a very valid way to look at things, is usually to kind of look back at the past. And what you see is that traditionally PlayStation consoles' life cycles have lasted for about 6 years normally. I think the PS1 and 2 both lasted 6 years. PlayStation 3 was like the only exception, which was 7 years in total, but there were a couple of like circumstances that really made for that, mainly like the financial crisis and stuff that was going on, which kind of forced Sony and Microsoft as well to prolong that generation for as long as they could, and that's why the PlayStation 4, took like 7 years to release, pretty much in 2013 eventually. So I really think that, like, yeah, fall 2019 would be the most logical time for it to release. Some people have even been talking about 2020. I think that's a little too late. You're once again then looking at that 7-year lifespan, which I just think is a bit too much, especially for the times that we live in nowadays, where we just kind of expect new hardware to release very, very quickly, And so, yeah, personally, I had always thought 2019. It seemed like the right time for it to be released as well because, yeah, once again, the PS4 came out in 2013. They released the PS4 Pro in 2016, which would be really nice that way because it would take 3 years for the Pro to be released and then another 3 years for the actual new PlayStation, the PS5, to finally come out. So, at that point, I would assume the PlayStation 4 has kind of hit its stride. The massive games that we are still looking forward to right now have come out at that point. Like The Last of Us will probably be a 2018 or 19 title, Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, those kinds of games that are really looking to release quite late in the generation. So yeah, I really always thought that 2019 was kind of the magical number, the year when I personally predicted or expected, or I still expected the PlayStation 5 to come out. Now, what he's saying, right, Damian Thong, this technology analyst, about it possibly releasing already in the second half of 2018, like, I still think it's somewhat possible. I don't think it's like a complete stretch. I personally don't think it's likely, but still, I'm not gonna completely rule it out though, because we do live in very, very interesting times, and I will say that, is that, simply the fact that you look at what PlayStation and Microsoft are doing right now already with the way they're changing up the traditional, console cycle, with the fact that the PlayStation 4 Pro released in the first place, that's weird, right? Because we've never had a mid-generation kind of upgrade, a console that actually improved on the previous version. Look at Microsoft, they're really trying to kind of turn things around, I guess, because with the Scorpio releasing, this year at the end, right, 4 years after the Xbox One released, yeah, I mean, are they gonna still call that an Xbox One, or will they treat it kind of like its own thing? Yes, it's gonna be backwards compatible and stuff. It might still very much be treated like an Xbox something else. They're not gonna, kind of like link it to the Xbox One name in that way. So we will pretty much have to wait and see about that. But I simply think that we're going towards a time where basically consoles will be coming out quicker and quicker, and once again with the PlayStation 4 Pro you can kind of already see that. Yes, you can still say that of course it is a PlayStation 4, but at the same time I personally don't even think that the PS5 will be that different. One thing that I think a lot of people have not really kind of realized the moment Sony already announced the PS4 all the way back in 2013 at that certain event is like the complete decision for the architecture. It's an x86 architecture that they use for the PlayStation 4, which is a very traditional PC architecture. Now, what that means is that they can very quickly and easily come out with new kind of like hardware iterations that will then still be compatible with the previous ones. Therefore, I think when they release the PlayStation 5, it will be able to play PS4 games still, and so in that way you're not gonna kind of like you're maybe gonna see that they won't really treat it in a way where people will actually be left behind and where they kind of get a choice to upgrade or not. You know, where PlayStation 4 games will keep coming out and will still run on the PS5, and in that way developers have the choice to make a game purely for a platform like the PlayStation 5 or still make it very much compatible with previous versions of PlayStation hardware. Who knows, it might even not be called a PlayStation 5, and Sony is going to continue in this way where they're coming out with faster iterations every 2 or 3 years that will be like the PS4 Pro, where they can be slightly more powerful each time and where they give people the choice to upgrade or not. I think this is what a lot of people are talking about right now. Are we still going to see those traditional console cycles where yeah, it doesn't really seem to be of this time anymore that a certain console comes out and then it's completely kind of like different from the previous one, where you're gonna kind of have to say goodbye to your games because everybody still complains nowadays with the fact that there is no backwards compatibility, that they, you know, all the games they loved on the PlayStation 3 they can't play anymore now on the PS4. Like, once again, in the times that we live in, it seems that we're going towards this more PC and smartphone kind of era where you know, you're gonna see that you're not really at any point forced to upgrade, but you can kind of choose for yourself when you feel like really investing money into a new platform so that all your, you know, your favorite games and your favorite apps or whatever will run better than what they did now. So once again, I think it's very, very interesting times. I would say personally that the PS4, the fact that it's being so successful, right, that Sony is doing so well, making so much money with the platform, it seems they will want to kind of prolong it as long as they possibly could, right? They would want to kind of, you know, ride that thing along for as long as possible and still keep making money, but at the same time will be catching up with them eventually, and we have to wait and see what exactly is the Scorpio gonna do. Right now, there is no pressure on Sony. The pressure is on Microsoft. They need to start delivering, they need to kind of like start competing again with the PS4, because it's not really happening right now, you know? And so, when the Scorpio comes out, and it will turn out to maybe do very well, which I don't know if it really will be, but at the same time, like, I'm not ruling it out either. If it's gonna turn out to actually be very successful for them, and if they manage to take a bit of that market share from the PS4, and by a bit, I mean quite a bit, of course, then yeah, Sony will at some point be forced to kind of like, you know, play new cards, I guess, in that way, or do something different, right? And so they would kind of be forced to release a new platform. So it all kind of, at the same time, depends on how well Microsoft is doing and how the PC is doing, and maybe even Nintendo, just the competition, right? Because the moment the competition is doing very well and you maybe not so much anymore, that's the point where you have to act. This is exactly why the Scorpio is coming out now. Microsoft has to act. And so yeah, once again, the second half of 2018, right now, I think it's unlikely, but at the same time, we are definitely finding ourselves in very interesting times, and I would very much, I'm just very curious, you know, how this is gonna turn out, and what times we're kind of going into with our consoles. Will they start looking more like those PCs and that smartphone kind of business model, or will they very much stick to what they've been doing already for the last 30 years, which at the same time seems a little, you know, of an outdated approach right now. So, with that being said, I would like to know from you, what do you personally think? When is the PlayStation 5 coming out? What do you think about everything I said in this video? And let me know if I missed anything, or, you know, if you want me to talk some more about this or about different aspects, because I'm definitely willing to kind of expand on this in future videos. I just think it's super, super interesting to talk about where we're kind of headed with consoles right now. So, with that being said, leave a quick like to help support my channel, and then for now, thanks a lot for watching, and hope to see you again next time.